everyone, and thank you all for listening in and participating in this teaching. This teaching is going to be about gratitude and rejoicing. Now, before we begin, I always like to mention that these teachings are based on logical reasoning and critical thinking, and the heavy use of the notion of the law of cause and effect. Why this is important to mention is because I invite you all to also use your own logical and critical thinking, especially in regards to your own belief systems, so that these teachings are not discarded with the back of the hand, but you take time to listen to them, see if it makes sense or not, because they are produced in the hopes of producing for yourself happiness and peace of mind. So hopefully you can open up your mind and listen to the whole teaching and see if things make sense. So with that being said, let's get into the topic of gratitude and rejoicing. Now, there's a lot of literature on this topic as it came into light in recent years on some of the psychology with regards to happiness. But what's unfortunate to see is that sometimes it's seen as the solution to our problems, as if it's the end-all be-all of the creation of happiness in our lives. But it really needs to be accompanied with a lot of other trainings and skills for it to actually work fundamentally and really change your state of mind and really create this deep inner peace and happiness. And if you look and start reading into this topic, what you'll find is different focuses and highlights with regards to gratitude. For an example, sometimes you'll read that gratitude is about appreciation and thankfulness about a particular thing. So the first part is appreciation and thankfulness, which is being conveyed through the words gratitude. And the second part, in regards to the object to which you're grateful for, is what we're going to really go into depths in this teaching. Now, the other part that I mentioned about this teaching is about developing joy or rejoicing. Now, I bring them together because it is an essential part of gratitude to not only be appreciative and thankful for something, and we're going to go into depths about that thing in particular, but what's important is also to bring the aspect or the experience of joy in relation to that appreciation and thankfulness. So the rejoicing, to bring it as part of the gratitude so that it really becomes a more complete practice and you start wanting to continue the aspect or the experience of gratitude because you are associating it with the experience of joy. Now, with regards to the second part about the object of gratitude, this is where we'll find in literature very different definitions or different objects for which to be grateful for. Now, what we're going to try to do in this teaching is connect gratitude and rejoicing, and especially with regards to the object of gratitude and rejoicing, to the rest of the teachings, because they all have to come together in a logical fashion and really build up the fundamental building blocks in order for you to understand how to create happiness and peace of mind in your own life. Because what's important is that the other teachings come and complement what's being said in this teaching. So therefore, I strongly recommend that you listen, especially to the teaching on happiness and suffering, which kind of bring it all together to see how gratitude and rejoicing is really just a part of the whole. And it all fits in a logical way. So one of the definitions that you will find out there is a very superficial, I might say, level of gratitude that actually comes in contradiction to the teachings on the true cause of happiness and suffering, meaning that happiness is created by states of minds and not external circumstances. So the definitions that we'll find sometimes that contradict this is where gratitude is based on the things that you have, on the experiences that you're living. So it's very first degree. It's the first level of looking at reality. Basically, you just look at your external circumstances and you say, I'm grateful that I have these things. So as you can see, is that we're basing our gratitude on external circumstances and external things themselves. So what we end up doing by using this definition of gratitude is that we're actually encouraging the mindset or the belief that happiness is actually coming from these things, from these external circumstances. This first degree of this is what I have and they're good, so therefore I should be grateful, and therefore creating this mind of rejoicing, but based on external circumstances. And therefore it comes directly contradict where happiness and suffering actually come from, and therefore it's encouraging the wrong belief system, so to speak. So what we're going to dive into is how can we deepen that level of gratitude. So therefore not stay at the first degree level, which is very superficial and encourages the wrong belief system, but transcend this first level of thinking and see how to actually build a very deep and connected sense of gratitude and rejoicing. So how can we change the definition or use a definition that is actually in line with the true notions or the true causes of happiness and suffering? So let's use the notion or the law of cause and effect to deepen our understanding of gratitude and to connect it to the actual sources of happiness and suffering, which are coming from within the mind as opposed to connecting it back to external circumstances. So let's start from the things that you actually have and ask the question, where did they actually come from? But in particular, which living beings helped you receive these benefits or these things that you're grateful for? So this is the second degree of thinking. So first is just looking at the actual things. Second is the causes of the reception of these things. And these are connected to other living beings. That's the important part. That's the second level. So if we take some time, we'll always find someone, somewhere that was involved in us receiving this benefit. But this is still not deep enough, but it's still a step closer to where we want to get to. Now, this shift is a good shift, but we still have to continue because we also have to understand that people from their own side are also not the true causes of happiness. So let us remember that the true causes of happiness and suffering are coming from states of minds that we generate. And those states of minds are what create the effect. For instance, anger will create suffering. Jealousy, envy, those are states of minds that create suffering, as discussed in previous teachings. And on the flip side, the mind of love, patience, and compassion, those states of minds generate or have an effect of being happy or being peaceful. So therefore, with regards to this shift, so let's go to the third level. So now we went from things, circumstance, to at least to the people who made it possible. But we're trying to really cultivate proper states of minds. So what we're trying to shift now to the third level is seeing the kindness of the living beings that were involved for you to have received such a benefit. And now we start recognizing the kindness of other living beings. And this way we start recognizing, or we start seeing that it's because of the kindness of others that we received these benefits. Because without it, it would not have been possible. Now we're going to continue going deeper, but at this first level, which is already very good, is that by recognizing or appreciating and being thankful, and not only that, rejoicing in the kindness of others, is that what that's going to do for yourself is that it's going to encourage you to also act in the same way, because now you see the benefit of being kind to others because you're receiving their kindness, and therefore it's going to also bring it more to light for yourself. And because of the rejoicing and the appreciation of that kindness, it's going to cultivate the recognition of the kindness in others, and by osmosis, so to speak, it's going to also encourage yourself to build this kindness because it's such a wonderful state of mind. And what this will also encourage you to do is to want to repay that kindness. Now, repaying of that kindness could take different forms depending on your circumstances and what you can actually do to help others, but you're going to at least want to have the wish to repay that kindness because you know that it creates well being for others as well, just as you were the receiver of the kindness of others. And the state of mind of kindness or wanting to be kind to others is a state of mind that generates peace. So the effect of wanting to be kind and thinking of others is basically compassion. And this is a state of mind that generates peace of mind and happiness. So we're already building these foundational blocks of gratitude that are in line with building the states of minds that cause happiness. And as mentioned, what's important to bring not only the appreciation and thankfulness, so the gratitude part, but also the rejoicing part. And what this will create is a positive feedback loop. So what happens is that by rejoicing, so creating this mind of joy for seeing the acts of kindness of other living beings, will also, you'll want to reciprocate or pay it back. Now, what's important is that you also rejoice in the acts of kindness that you create. And this way, not only are you rejoicing and being grateful for other people's kindness, which also encourage your own kindness, but by also rejoicing in your acts of kindness to others, you'll double down on this state of mind and it will develop faster. So it's like this positive feedback loop that really accelerates the creation or cultivation of this state of mind, which causes you to act in kindness and also to see the acts of others, or the kindness of others, which in turn will generate peace and happiness for yourself. So let us continue going deeper, using again the law of cause and effect to really create an even deeper sense of gratitude and rejoicing. So now let's ask a question. All these people, all these acts of kindness where you were the beneficiary, why did they act out of kindness? Is probably because they also received acts of kindness of others. So this is also continuing with the law of cause and effect. Say, why did they get out of kindness? They also received out of kindness. And we could keep asking in every direction, meaning either we go horizontal in the sense of all the people involved at that moment to have these things occur, but also if you could go back in time, which is also another causation chain, where you bring all the factors involved for these individuals or these people to have given you maybe something very small, but they happen maybe very often, or they have occurred, and then keep bringing in all the living beings that were actually involved in an infinite causation chain. And let this imagination of this vast or this countless amount of living beings, but not only that, the vast amount of kindness that was involved for you to have received what you are, what you have today. And that's where we start connecting to the countless living beings and the countless kindness that existed and that keeps perpetuating. And it really is vast and countless. It could go into it's an infinite causation chain because the law of cause and effect has no beginning. You just keep asking, you just keep going back in time, or you can just keep asking where it was caused from, and you keep seeing that there's always acts of kindness occurring everywhere. And by connecting your gratitude and rejoicing to the countless living beings and the vast amount of kindness that was necessary for you to receive this, really creates a deep, strong sense of gratitude and rejoicing. And that's what we're trying to connect to. And let this vast amount of kindness really generate a powerful sense, an intense feeling of gratitude and rejoicing. And to realize that we're such a small part of this vast ocean of kindness. And by thinking this way, we also understand that the only way to pay back is to pay it forward and to keep acting out of kindness to others, to continue this cause and effect chain and keep benefiting others. So this is really where we're trying to base our gratitude and rejoicing in. This level connected to a vast amount of living beings and their kindness, especially the kindness of all these living beings. That's the definition we should try to cultivate, and that's the experience we're trying to cultivate. Now, the other thing what we're going to try to bring is at what extent can we be grateful? And what extent can we find the kindness of others so that we could rejoice all the time? We could bring as much rejoicing and joy within our lives. So if we could take a step back and we start looking at everything we have, everything we experience that is good, that we enjoy. And we take a lot, we might be taking a lot for granted because pretty much everything you have, everything you know is due to others. The clothes you're wearing, the food you're eating, the infrastructure that you're using, the internet that you're using, the technology that you're using, the knowledge that you've acquired. These are all due to the kindness of others. They're all due to others. Therefore, there's not much that you've done alone. And actually, that is never going to be the case. We live in a reality that's very deeply interconnected to others. To believe that we're completely alone and isolated is actually very far from the truth, very far from reality itself. Just question everything you are benefiting from right now, even the language that you're speaking. Every knowledge, all the knowledge that you're acquiring, whether through teachers or through online tutorials or YouTube or what videos out there, it's all due to the kindness of others. And what you start noticing is that you could you could actually bring it into everything around you. You could always be in a state of gratefulness and gratitude and rejoicing. And you could just imagine how that might feel. You're always in a state of joy, you're always in a state of gratitude. Because everything you look around that you're benefiting from, you could connect to this deep sense of gratitude and rejoicing. Now, when we state, as what was done, that we can be grateful for everything, that there's actually no circumstance where you cannot find gratitude and rejoice in the circumstance, is sometimes very difficult to hear. Because our usual argument is that not everything is good. So therefore, it's not possible to rejoice in everything and be grateful for everything. And literally everything. Okay? So this also includes the negative aspects or the things that we find, or the adversity or challenges or obstacles that we find in our lives. And what's important to rely upon, especially with regards to what was taught in other teachings, is that it has nothing to do with external circumstances, but everything has to do with the way we see these external circumstances. So what's important is how, or what, so the important question to ask is, how can we see things in a different light, which can help us find gratitude and rejoicing in all circumstances? And that only goes for the obstacles and challenges and adversities that we have in life. But another argument that we sometimes have is saying, well, maybe the other person didn't act out of kindness. Maybe it was never their intention to act out of kindness. Now, the fact of the matter is that you don't actually know. Or maybe you do have an indication, or maybe you do know that they didn't really feel like doing it, but you still benefited from the situation. And we sometimes feel this with regards to our work, or with regards to other aspects where, because of, let's say, socioeconomic system, that we have to work. So the thing is, what's important here is where can we shift our mindset to actually make sense of this? So if we start looking into what other people actually intended to do, even though you might be benefiting from something right now, is that if you want to only look at the problems or projections that other people did not intend to give you anything, then the only effect that it actually has is for you to not be grateful and rejoice. So you're not taking advantage, or you're not feeling happy and peaceful because you create a resentment towards other people as opposed to just projecting kindness. Remember, if we're projecting that someone did not intend to be kind, it's still just a projection. And we want to see that projection. That means we're focusing on it. But the other way around is just as valid. So we're just projecting that they were kind, whether they liked it or not. It doesn't matter at that point. What's important is how do you actually want to feel? What do you want to create in your life? Peace of mind and rejoicing, or resentment to others? And this has everything to do with what you're building. And this is why it really comes back to understanding the true causes of happiness and suffering, that they're actually based or caused by the states of minds you create. That's why in the end it becomes an irrelevancy to know what the other people actually thought about, because it's an irrelevancy with regards to the creation of your happiness. So by focusing on thinking that they did not have the intention to benefit others, then the only effect that it actually has, because in the end you won't be able to change other people, and what has occurred has already occurred. And we're not talking about the future. We talked about it in the teachings on patience, is that the only effect that it will have is for you to suffer, to not feel well, to not rejoice. So basically, we might as well relook at the situation and just say, well, I'm benefiting, therefore let me just recognize whether it is true or not, because the flip side you don't know either. So we might as well use a projection that helps us just feel better. So once again, all of them were just projections. It's all your mind conceiving of these different ideas. And the ones you focus on have different effects. So therefore, we might as well pick the projection or the conception that generates happiness and peace of mind. So once again, what we're trying to do is really connect to the kindness. So projecting kindness and just connecting to the interconnectedness of all things, but the interconnectedness of the kindness of all things and what you're benefiting from right now. And this is what's going to be really beneficial for yourself. And it's going to create the desire to continue your acts of kindness and to be part of this vast ocean of kindness yourself. And this is not about taking pride or creating a feeling of arrogance that I'm being kind to others, but really to create a humility and to see that you're just a little drop in the vast ocean of kindness of all living beings, because that's closer to reality of everything we connect to, because we're connected to all living beings in that sense. Nothing would be possible. We're not an island, once again. So we have to think and really connect. We're the ones connecting. We're the ones projecting. So therefore, why this is important is it's these states of minds that cause inner peace and well-being and happiness. And what's unfortunate sometimes, and what we see sometimes, is not only we don't connect to this interconnectedness or this vast ocean of kindness, we don't even sometimes connect to feeling grateful for the things we have. Sometimes we feel disdain, we feel actually entitlement that we deserve to get everything we have. Like the complete opposite. We're alone. It's all about me, and that's why I got everything. No one was involved. So we might be going from very far. Like maybe we're in a sense bitter about everything we don't have, and never connect to the actual things we have, and to actually connect, not the first degree, but to keep going and feeling this interconnectedness and this vast ocean of kindness that is all around you all the time. And those are just for the positive things that are happening. Yeah. Because as mentioned, we also have an argument, well, I can't be grateful and rejoice in everything, in all possible circumstances. So this is what we're going to see right now. It's like, how is that possible? So we talked about the positive, but how do we transform a negative, an obstacle, an adversity in our life so that we could find gratitude and rejoice? Now, it might seem difficult to believe that this is possible, but to give you an example to see how the mind works, and now it's actually possible, is go into a past situation, a distant past, that was difficult or something that happened that you didn't find very pleasant at the time. But now when you look back at it, you actually can laugh about it. That you see it in a positive light now. You could actually laugh at yourself or laugh at the situation, laugh at how bad it was or the obstacle or the stupidity that actually occurred. This example, and I'm sure everyone has such an example, no matter how trivial, where at that moment it was really very difficult and got very angry or cried. And now we look at it and we laugh at how we react, or we laugh at the triviality, or we laugh. This is an indication that our mind can change with regards to how we perceive a certain something. That it might have been negative at the time of occurrence, but now, years later or much time later, we could actually laugh at the situation. So this clearly illustrates that it's the perception of these situations and not the situation from its own side that makes us feel a certain way. But it also illustrates that it's possible to change, and that it's a skill that can actually be cultivated. And this is one of them. Skill of gratitude and rejoicing is that skill to connect back to a kindness. Therefore, being able to see all situations in a different light. So this is part of that skill, including all the past or the other teachings that including all the other teachings. Also, note that if it wasn't a perception and that it was actually coming from this external circumstance or object, then it wouldn't be possible to even change your mind years later. It would have still been stuck in that sort of reaction. So the ability to change or shift how we saw things is a good indication, a good illustration from our own personal experiences that it's not coming from external circumstances, but actually coming from our projection or what we conceive of the situation. So if we look into it, how do we actually build a different mindset? So what's happening in these circumstances where we were able to laugh or look back at it in a different light? Because it's actually quite simple. So what we could actually see in these particular circumstances is that maybe we grew from what occurred. We became stronger and we learned something valuable, a valuable lesson that now we'll never repeat again. Or maybe we now see the triviality of what occurred. So why this is important to see in your own personal experiences is, why are you able to laugh now? That means you were capable to see the positive. You were capable of seeing something different and not only the negative. Now, the only issue is that at the moment of occurrence, we reacted with anger, and it blinded us from actually going deeper into the situation and going deeper from a causal or cause and effect chain of what it's actually going to create for us. We were very first level degree, meaning this is what occurs and I don't like it. And this is similar to the way a child reacts. It's very first degree. So if something negative occurs, they don't like it and they break down. And if we have a tendency to do the same thing, then we don't go deeper in the situation. Whereas what we have the capability of doing, even at the moment of occurrence, is seeing that it's a challenge. And instead of seeing at the immediate obstacle, but by re-looking at the situation as fast as possible as a challenge, that you're going to live up to that challenge and you're going to overcome this obstacle, and that you're going to actually grow and build a stronger mindset with regards to these circumstances and connect to that instead, as opposed to just seeing first degree of saying, I don't like it. Very reactionary, very superficial. And by looking at it from an opportunity to challenge oneself, an opportunity to grow, all of a sudden we can now connect to gratitude with regards to this challenge, being grateful and appreciative of the challenge that is in front of us, and rejoice in the kindness that this person has created for you. So again, we don't have to worry about their intention. That goes back to the first part of this teaching, where it's an irrelevancy what the actually person intended for. But we could still connect and say how kind they were to give me this challenge, regardless of what they actually thought. The only difference, this shift of mindset that it will create, is that you'll actually probably be able to overcome this challenge and rejoice throughout the journey. And you'll be at peace while this adversity is actually occurring. And to give you a reason why you don't know what the intention is that there are some circumstances, for example, in a parent-child relationship, where the parent might actually create a situation that might be difficult for the child. And sometimes we call this tough love. But from the child perspective, they only see the first degree in saying, my parent is not giving me what I want. And they're not connecting the fact that they're being given a challenge for them to grow. And the parent is actually doing this out of love because they want the child to grow and grow stronger in their mind and being able to learn and develop new skills. So it is actually the intention of the parent to benefit the others, to benefit the child, but the child is not seeing it. And this is why, in the end, it becomes irrelevant if the other person did it out of good or bad. is that in the end, you can connect to the fact that it's a challenge and be appreciative of the challenge regardless of the other person, and connect to say, how kind were they to give me this challenge, regardless of if they did it on purpose or not. Once again, why this is important is the difference that it creates in yourself. It creates peace of mind, it creates mental fortitude, it creates actually the ability to overcome and to do this with joyful mind and gratitude. And this is how we could learn to find gratitude in everything we do. Now, another thing that comes up usually in our mind is that we need time to process. We need time to get over things. Now, the thing is that if you ask that question rationally, try to find a reasonable answer to that question with regards to time. Like, how long should it take for you to get over things? And then we start asking questions. For instance, should it be 15 years? And it's like 15 years is a long time to maybe get over something and feel grateful and rejoice in now your current circumstance. Is it 10 years? That's a long time. A lot of things could happen. You're creating a lot of suffering and suffering for a long time, if that's the case. And then say 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, a few weeks, a few minutes, a few moments. And why these questions is that it's completely arbitrary. And sometimes we might have social pressures that for some reason we should be suffering for a particular circumstance. And sometimes we have, there's like a social understanding, which is kind of odd, that you should be suffering, that there's a moment of suffering, that it's not normal that you get over it so quickly. But why would you want to suffer to begin with? So the notion of time really is completely arbitrary. There's no actual logical reasoning or definitive time to get over something. So the question is that why would you want to suffer any amount of time? So the answer is, well, I guess none, because we all trying to be happy and free from suffering. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is shorten the amount of time. And this is the skill, this training of the mind that we do, and these teachings and the accompanying meditations are there to help develop the skill so that we shorten the amount of time it takes us to overcome adversity, to actually build this rejoicing and gratitude in everything we do. And also, with regards to these difficult circumstances, really diminish the time it takes us to change or shift our perspective. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is shrink it all the way to zero. And then the question is well, what is zero in that sense? Zero means that we've never reacted in a negative fashion to begin with, meaning that our mindset has shifted, our reactions have shifted, so that now we're reacting in a way of seeing the challenge and being grateful for the challenge when it occurs, and not having to go through this turmoil, which in the end serves no purpose. The only purpose it serves, or the only purpose it actually does, is it creates suffering. Because in the end, if we want to overcome it, we will still have to get over it eventually. So therefore, it was destructive to suffer, to have a different state of mind, a state of mind that created suffering. There's no other purpose. It actually does nothing for us. It's more destructive than anything else. Whereas the opposite state of mind, a state of mind of gratitude and rejoicing, no matter the obstacle, and to connect to the kindness of all living beings, regardless, and to be grateful for the opportunity of this challenge, is constructive. It makes us move in the right direction in terms of building our mind, training our mind, growing our mind, and also living happily and peacefully and being well throughout these challenges, being well throughout these obstacles. and being able to overcome them. So therefore, ultimately, time is an irrelevancy when it comes to choosing how long you should suffer or not. The ultimate answer and the reasonable answer, because what we're trying to do in our lives is be happy all the time. So we're trying to really go to zero, meaning that we've changed our reaction from the get-go, which prevents suffering altogether. So the accompanying meditation with regards to this teaching is about creating a determination to practice gratitude no matter the situation. So with regards to positive situations, we connect to the kindness of all living beings that were involved for you to receive this benefit. And there's so many opportunities. So that's during the meditation, we actually generate gratitude and rejoicing. We rejoice in the kindness of all living beings and we connect to it as deep as possible in your heart. And out of meditation, this determination has to involve something personally in your day-to-day life. And we have so many opportunities to connect. Every bite you eat is a good opportunity. You could connect to say, why is it possible for me to eat this, and connect. So in your daily life, you can use every opportunity to connect to the kindness of all living beings. Every bite you eat, you could think about all the people involved for you to have this bite to eat and the kindness of all these living beings. And if you're eating meat, then you could also find gratitude for the living being that gave up their life for you to be eating right now. So there's so many circumstances. Everything you're taking for granted, just you could take a moment and just connect to all the living beings that were involved for you to have this, and then connect to the kindness of all these living beings. And when it comes to negative and adverse situations, then what we do in meditation is we think that it's always possible to find gratitude, even in adverse situation, by thinking, thank you for this opportunity you're giving me to strengthen my mind, to grow, and connect, to do the second degree connection when it comes to adverse situations, so that we become more like first responders in our lives. Because what kind of first responder do you want on the scene? Let's say there's a firefighter or ambulance worker. You want someone who's panicking and stressed out and anxious, don't know what they're doing? Or do you want someone that's poised, calm, ready for action, ready for the challenge? We have to become that first responder within our own life for the adversity that we will eventually have to face. And this is only possible through training. So this meditation is to really say, I create the determination to try to find gratitude and to rejoice in the kindness of all living beings, no matter the situation. So when it's positive, we rejoice, say thank you for, and connect to the living beings and connect to their kindness. And when it comes to adverse situation, you think, I will shift my mindset. I'm determined to be grateful for the opportunity they're giving me to grow my mind. So that, as you can see, it's not a passive mindset. It's not one that's being taken for granted. It's a mindset that's ready to face the challenge, to face the obstacle in a peaceful and kind-hearted way. And this way you could be confident and convinced that there is a place to create gratitude and to rejoice in all situations. And then you meditate on, once you've found how to meditate and that you're convinced, yes, I know how to do this now, then you generate a determination, a decision in your life to say, I will try to practice gratitude at every moment in my life. Now that you have a new definition, now that you have a methodology and a practice of how to do so. This way it's easier to create a determination because now you know how to find gratitude and rejoice and to be able to find joy in all these situations. And then once you find that determination to practice gratitude, that is the object of meditation. In this way, you understand that when you're out of meditation, you'll be more willing to practice. And just imagine kind of life and mindset or what it's going to create in your life. This peaceful mind that's always joyful, no matter the situation. And therefore convinced that it's worthwhile to train and practice. I hope you enjoyed these teachings. If you like them, please continue tuning in. And thank you for all your support.